let's see what's inside this kit. I'm excited to find out if it's a beginner friendly or if it's more advanced. Cool. So let's open up the box and see what's in here. First of all, it's the instructions. It's all in pictures, so we'll look at those better in a minute. And then it's like a couple of little padded areas. There's already some padding fused to those. Oh, and I didn't notice this, there are a couple of needles pinned into this. These needles look very thin and small, not very strong. Okay. Some stuff in, not sure where that goes. The actual little purse part that has the Sashiko pattern already printed on there. I love navy blue with white on. The white just really makes it pop. And then in here, let's see, we've got, ooh, I dropped it. We've got this tassel with a little bead on the end. Some a little fan shape there, a couple of beads. That looks like a paper clip, but it must be some kind of a little fastener. I don't want to open that plastic right now because those are so small, I'll probably end up losing them. And then a piece of kind of cord there. Don't know what any of these things are going to be used for in this, but I guess we'll get the instructions and get there. And then some Sashiko thread, white and navy blue. The last thing in here is a needle threader. 2 needle threaders, all right. So let's sit those back in there and then we'll look at the instructions and see how we're going to get started. The first thing the instructions say is to do the Sashiko. So I have started that, but the thread is a little bit thick and it's difficult to stay onto the lines that they have printed onto this fabric. So I've decided to use a thinner thread. So I will later unpick this. Just looking at the thread, this is kind of unusual because this is really more like Kogan thread because it splits so easily into 6 strands and yet it's not thick enough to be Kogan thread. So it's kind of an unusual looking thread. But it's okay because I have plenty of other thread. This one that I've got here is really quite a thin one and I just think that will work better on this pattern, and that may just be my taste. You know, other people might think that that's perfectly suitable and do a good job, but I'm not happy with the job that I'm doing on that stitching, and so this at the moment is my answer for that. So I'm just going to open this up, thread the needle and start doing some Sashiko on the other side, and then as I say, I'll unpick that in a little bit. If you haven't seen this before, Sashiko thread comes in a loop. When you unwind it, it opens out into a long strand, and you just cut it in half and take one thread and use it. And usually these little packets will open up and you can wrap it back around there and seal it back down again so that it just kind of keeps it in some kind of an order, and also so that if you run out of thread you can match this up and use it. Sashiko is about making even stitches, but don't worry if they're not perfect. Really it's the handmade charm that makes these things special. And I'm just starting this with a knot. And my dogs are barking at something outside. I'm sorry. With 3 dogs it's almost impossible to video anything without the dogs barking in the background. Alright, so I'm going to start on this section here. And I'm just going to do these long rows first, up and down the length. I just went and put my Sashiko thimble on, I hadn't picked it up. So with this needle, I'm not going to be able to load that many stitches onto my needle because it's not very long. I suspect this is not really a Sashiko needle. I'm actually going to switch over to one of my Sashiko needles to finish sewing this. And 3 strokes for tension control. So, do you see that? I'll go ahead and do all this Sashiko on this and then bring it back and see what we're going to do next. I'm just going to finish this last little row of Sashiko here. So the instructions say to do this part and the horizontal lines as a back stitch. And I did that but wasn't happy with the results. You can see on this first part here, I've actually done the back stitch on this part. Can you see that there? And it's just not as neat and nice as I would want it to be. So I decided on the front to just do a regular Sashiko stitch row. That's what I decided to do, and I've just got this last little bit here to finish off. And then I'll have a look what's the next step in making this little purse. So the next step was to cut out the outer contour lines, so around these white lines that it shows you on the pattern, and I have just done that. So this is all the pieces cut out along that white outer edge. So there's those 2, which are obviously the back and front of the purse, and then these, which I'm not sure yet what these are going to be. Once that's done, it said to fold these 2 pieces in half and sew along this line. So I'm just going to do that now. Turn the fabric over. Make sure that means to the right side. Looks like these are folded out flat, so I'm just going to finger press those open. And then fold the fabric in half. And I'm not sure whether it means this way or this way. I'm looking at the pictures. I think it means to fold it this way. So actually I'm just going to iron that because I think that'll make it easy for me to keep it in place. Those 2 little pieces I then went on and machined to the top of this row as the instructions say. I placed them fairly evenly, so they've made like a little loop. It's not really clear on the instructions whether I was supposed to sew this double or single, so I sewed it double. And then the next instruction was to put the 2 pieces that I did the Sashiko on right sides together and sew around the edges. I've also done that. I may have to go back and just clip a little bit in those corners to make this lay right, but so for now that's as far as I've got at the moment. So the next instructions involve these 2 pieces here. Looks like the coin purse lining. They've already got this kind of batting sewn into them. It does actually say put them right sides together and sew along the dotted lines, but actually there isn't a dotted line, so I can only assume they mean sew along this edge of the fabric. So that's what I'm going to do, and I have to leave the bottom 8 centimeters unsewed. So I'm going to go to the sewing machine and do that. My sewing machine has centimetre markings down here, So I'm just putting this, it says leave the bottom 8 centimetres open. That's the 8 centimetre mark round there. So it pretty much means this whole bottom part. So I'm not measuring it exactly, that'll be close enough for me to be able to tell. I know that little piece is for turning, and if I haven't left it open wide enough, I can always just cut a couple of stitches so that it will turn through. I'm going to put the original piece I made inside of the lining. So let's put that down. Put that down in there. And then this top area just needs to be sewn around. Let's go back to the sewing machine and do that. I am just putting a couple of pins in here. I'm putting one at each side seam. I've tried to nest those seams together so that they sit nicely. And then the same at the other side. Just depends. Here I can see it's just not laying right, so I'm just putting some extra pins in. So I'm actually going to sew it looking at it this way. Which, if I try to do it this way, I can do it, but it'll be more awkward. So now I just have to turn this through this opening. So I'm just going to pull this. There we go. Cut along the 2 white lines. All right, where are the 2 white lines? Ah, I see. So my 2 white lines are right there and they have almost faded. I'm going to try to really carefully cut. This is a bit worrying to cut into your fabric here at the front like that, but this is what it says to do, so we'll just follow the pattern and do what it says. So I can see, let me look at the button. I can show you the button better. Maybe we'll get a better idea of what we're doing here. So this is the little packet with the little button in it. So let me tip it out. And this is the part that I want. Just put these little pieces back in here so I don't lose them before I use them. And so here is the button. Because it's magnetic, these pieces were stuck together. I couldn't figure out why it didn't look right. So what happens is this part of the button goes on the front and these fit through the 2 little holes you're going to cut, and then this fits underneath it. So let me go ahead and cut these 2 little tiny holes here. I can hardly see this white, so I'm not sure whether you can see it on the camera or not. I think the easiest way will be to just fold that in half and snip. Okay. All right, and then I'm going to push this through. I have to put my hand in at the other end of the purse here. Not sure if you can see or not, but those are cut open now. So now I've got to get this little button and push these little prongs through the little holes that I've made. Alright, and then I'm just going to partly turn this back through where I can get to it. And do you see that they have pushed through to the back there? And now this little disc I'm going to just slot over those little prongs, and then these prongs now will press outwards and that'll hold that button in place. Actually, I can do it with my fingers. I thought it was going to be too strong to do, but yeah, I can. I probably am going to just go and finish that off with a hammer to make sure that it stays down. But do you see that I've opened those out? So I will go and flatten those down properly. So I've hammered that at the back and that's laying nice and flat now. The next thing I'm going to do is close this opening. I really don't need to take a lot of time with this because it's going to be on the inside. But this batting on the inside will make it easy. I'll just turn it to the edges of the batting, pin it and just over sew the edge there. And I'm just using this stitch where I just catch both edges. So I'll just continue and sew that all the way around. So I've closed the opening and this navy blue lining fabric now gets stuffed inside the little coin purse. And I'll just spend some time working that flat. So while I was sewing that, I was thinking that you could actually make this without a sewing machine at all. There's so little actual construction sewing on it that this would be a good project if you just wanted to hand sew something. All right, and we'll move on to the next few little bits. This little metal part slides onto the fold that I sewed onto the top. Had to put it on without my hands getting in the way, but you can see it there, and the other one on the other side. And then the little fan that has a magnet on the back, those little rings just slide onto those clips. You do actually have to put that on before you hook it into the cloth. Alright, so I'm going to thread one end of the wax rope through 2 wooden beads is what the instruction says next. So it looks like I use a large bead and a small bead. It just doesn't want to go through there. I can't get this through this little bead at all. So I've just got a little piece of sellotape and I'm going to, you probably can't see it because it's clear, but I'm just going to wrap that around the end and try to roll it to a point if I can and see if that works. Oh wow, that was hard work. All right. To take great care that I don't drop that off again. So finally I've got my 2 beads on there. And then the next thing is, I need those little squares of fabric that I cut earlier when I was cutting them out that I didn't know what they were for. And it's these 2 here. So, fold it in half, sew along the white line and thread the wax rope into the fabric. So let me just take these to the machine and sew them in half. Not clear whether I'm supposed to sew all the way around or just along that dotted line there. So I'll just sew there for the moment. Thread this through. And fold the fabric in half a few times. I'm showing you the picture. Fold the fabric in half a few times. Sew horizontally along the white line. This is the only white line I see. I'm going to sew along there and see. I can always unpick it as long as I don't cut anything off. Turn the fabric over. I'm guessing that means turn it to the right side. So then I've pulled it up, turned it through to the other side. It's made like a kind of a little kind of a bell shape, I guess. And it says to stuff it with cotton, which they do give you a little bit of cotton balls to put in there. So let's stuff some cotton in. And then I have to sew along this edge, but kind of make it not flat, but more of a this shape. And so the way it shows it on the picture is that the ends are pushed in, and then this part here is sewn across. And then these ends are tucked in. And that part's sewn across in the same way. And you can see there the picture of what I'm doing here. So I'm just going to thread that inside to cut it off. Then the beads push down there. And then I have to repeat that at the other end of the rope. So both ends of it are going to look like this when I get it done. So I'm just going to go ahead and do the other side. Alright, both of those little ends of this waxed rope are done. So fold the wax rope in half. Fold a piece of navy blue embroidery thread in half. So there is some navy blue embroidery thread came with the little kit. So I'm going to pull one of those out. Place it at 10 centimetres. So I think 10 centimetres from this edge. So let me just take it over here to my sewing machine and measure 10 centimetres. This is 10 centimetres. I've laid the loop of embroidery thread along at the 10 centimetre mark, and I'm just winding it around, and I'll show you the picture on the pattern there. It'll be easier to see what I'm doing. Alright, so I'm just wrapping this round and round. It says for 2 centimetres. That looks like 2 centimetres. And now, I think think I'm going to thread this through this loop. And then pull on this end to secure it. And hopefully if I cut that off now, that should be enough to make that stay in place. Okay, so some things they seem really difficult when you're trying to read the instructions, but when you do it, then suddenly you realize, oh yeah, that's what they meant. So now this has got to secure onto here, and it's got to be threaded through here. And then it goes through there to make this knot that looks like this. And then there's another piece that goes on. Right here. And then the tassel goes on in exactly the same way. Although it would have been easier to thread both through at the same time, I now realise. The tassel and cord add a decorative flair. What do you think? Would you use them or change them up? My little purse is finished. It was really quite a challenge, much harder than I expected it to be. I thought this would be a quick little kit and a cute thing to do. To open it, this is magnetic and it just opens. You just slide that up there and then you can, you know, open your little purse inside there. Close it, fold it back down. For an honest review, this kit was a lot of fun. It was more challenging than I thought. I think I had the biggest problems with the cord and the tassels and those areas. And I did want to change up the Sashiko thread. The instructions were a little bit hard to follow at times, but it helped having the pictures in there. I will add the link in case you want to try it for yourself. There are other similar purses from other places than this, and if I wanted to make another one, I probably would get one from one of those instead of this. It looks cute in the end, but it really was quite a challenge.